Hi everyone, welcome to 22 Without a Clue. My name is McKenna, and this is our second episode, and I'm really excited. This is not my house. I'm actually in Melbourne. I'm here for my husband's work / vacation / Valentine's Day, so I'm super excited to be here, and that doesn't mean I can't record an episode because I said once a week, so I'm going to do it. I don't have my fancy equipment. I am recording on my phone and I also have my notes on my phone. So yeah, it's getting a little janky with the setup, but I do believe that I have stuff for you guys that you're going to want to hear and take home with you and really chew on for the next week. It's something that I necessarily not have like the biggest background of knowledge on, but I have been doing a lot of research, and it has opened up a lot of conversation with friends and family. Even went to an event this last week where it talked about it, and so I really think it's something that we kind of push under the rug because we don't want to deal with it, but it's super pivotal and important for moving forward to where we want to go. So what I want to talk to you guys about is pretty much like life experience, not with like jobs or anything like that, but mainly from like childhood. This episode is called Life Evaluation, because I want you guys to, before we can focus on moving forward, we need to figure out what happened in the past, and we need to figure out and get down to the root issue of what's going on. And there was a quote that I just heard this a couple weeks ago from Joe Dispenza, and he has a book on how to like recreate yourself. And it says, or he says, 90% of our thoughts are based on yesterday's thoughts. So then we are trying to think forward, but then we think the same things as yesterday. So we do the same things and the same actions, and our life stays the same. So that's like, it's kind of like a slap in the face because, we're all about like working on ourselves and going forward and doing change and doing new things. But it seems like the common issue is our thought process, and that's what keeps us in the same boat or the same issues and not really getting to where we want to go. And that's something I kind of reevaluate on my life, and that's pretty much a big reason why my business struggled in the first year. Growing up, I had, it wasn't like a problem, but I noticed I wasn't great at sharing my feelings. I would suppress a lot of my feelings because I wanted to avoid conflict. And this is something that's coming up in my marriage, and it's something that we talk about in our counseling sessions. But a lot of the reasons why I wanted to stuff my feelings and not express how I was feeling or what I wanted to do was because I wanted to avoid conflict. And it was because I saw conflict in my parents, and granted, everything's great now, but way back then, there was conflict. And so the little girl in me would want to be like, stop fighting, everything's going to be okay. And I couldn't say that because my parents, it's their relationship. I couldn't speak into it. And even when I tried, they're like, this isn't your problem, don't worry. This is for Dad and I to figure out. And so from a very young age, I suppressed my feelings, and I suppressed any type of voice that would possibly create conflict because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, or I didn't want to be disappointed or let down. And so that was like a root issue that I actually found recently that hinders my forward thinking. Because conflict is actually great. Conflict is really good in relationships. It's really good in your business. It's really good just in life in general. Like if we don't have conflict, then we're not working out kinks, and we're actually not figuring out what not to do so that we can go forward. And conflict creates intimacy with relationships. And I think personally, I think conflict creates intimacy in your business and like your career and your passion. Because if you have a conflict and you get through it, you're like, wow, I have more of appreciation for what I'm doing. And I know for a fact that this is what I'm supposed to be doing because I got through it and it's still on the other side with me. And with photography, my first year of business, I started doing what everyone wanted me to do because I didn't want to create conflict, or I didn't want to say like, oh no, that's not what I do, because I wanted to make money. And another part of my background is money was something that I kind of saw as, it wasn't something that I viewed in a positive light. It was kind of negative. And so I always thought that I just needed to make money and I just needed to do what I needed to do. And I figured out later that was actually probably really bad for my business. And so for the first year, I really struggled with what my business was because I didn't know who I was, and I was leading all of my decisions off of this root issue of not creating conflict and not wanting to be disappointed or let down. And I think you fail more and you don't see more results when your motivations are based off of insecurities or root issues rather than freedom and confidence and clarity of who you are. And then there's also something else that I wrote down. So this is a big thing, and it kind of relates to the previous episode, but this came up in a conversation. When we're meeting someone for the first time, we typically, like, big percentage of the time, we ask, what do you do for a living? And so this can kind of, like, develop an identity crisis without knowing it. Like, we can say, like, oh, I'm a photographer, or oh, I'm a mom, or oh, I'm a student. And when we say this out loud, our I ams are huge. Whenever we say I am and followed by something, it's declaring it, and then that becomes the truth. So when I say I am hungry or I am tired, that becomes my truth. Or I am a failure, that becomes my truth. And we don't realize it. Like, we sometimes in conversations when we're laughing, it said, oh my gosh, I'm dead. Like, you're declaring death on your life. And you're probably like, whatever, I don't mean it. But our voice and our words are more powerful than you think. So when you say to someone, I am a photographer, I am this, you're declaring that. And so, one, I don't really like that question, and personally, I want to strive away from that question when I meet someone. And there's questions that I have for you guys at the end of this episode that I want you to write down, and I really want you to chew on for this week. So I want to leave you with some questions, and I want you to think about them, chew on them for the week, write them down, and then I want you to share them personally with me, or if you're bold enough, you can share them through the comments. I really think that declaration is important, and once we start getting down to the root issues of what's going on and we can nitpick them, then we can start cutting them off and we can start moving forward. But we can't move forward until we nip this in the butt, and that's something that I had to go through, and there could be some things that come up later in my life that I have to nip in the butt, but that's part of life, you know, and we can't be motivated through guilt and shame, but we have to be motivated through freedom and confidence. So, and knowing that whatever has happened in the past is done. You are not a product of your past. And I think someone needed to hear that, you know. Just because you made mistakes in the past does not mean that you don't deserve what you really want. that's something that I struggled with. I didn't think I deserved, like, to be in Melbourne and to travel and to do all these things with an amazing husband that I have. And it was because I did some messed up things in the past, and I felt that I deserved the things, like the bad things in my life. But that's such a lie from the enemy that needs to be stopped right now. And I want to tell you that you are worth more than you think. And in my prayer time this morning, God told me to tell you that you're worth it, that he sees the gold in you, and that anything that's happened in your past is not a product of what's going to happen in your future. You have a brilliant future ahead of you, and you're worth it. You can do whatever you want to do, and if it's God's will, it's God's bill. He's going to provide for you. And so we have to stop thinking about yesterday's thoughts, and we really need to start evaluating, okay, what are those thoughts? Why am I thinking them? And now, after I've put them in front and I've exposed them for what they are, time to nip it in the butt and say no more. So these are some questions that I want to ask you, and even when you meet people for the first time, I would encourage you to ask them as well. It's kind of weird, and our world is programmed to ask really surfacey questions to get to know people. But I really think the questions aren't so much for us to get to know people, but the questions are for people to really kind of expose what they think of themselves. If I were to be asked these questions from some random stranger and I was caught off guard, it would say a lot more about me than them getting to know me, which is kind of cool. So yeah, the questions are, what or where do you find your identity in? I can explain that, but I'm sure you get that. Second one is, what are your dreams or passions? And the third one, do you believe you're doing what you want to do? If not, what is stopping you? These are questions that I think cut a little more deep, and there could be personal, and some people can get offended why you're asking them, and you're probably offended me asking you right now. But I would encourage you to write down these questions, and in your quiet time, just write it down. If you don't know, then call me up. We could talk about it, or pray about it. Or if you don't know how to pray about it, then I would encourage you to find someone who does. And just really don't write some BS answer just to do it or to feel good about yourself. If it's something where you're I don't know what I want to do, or if you do know what you want to do but you don't think you're worth it, write it down, because something can come out of that. So yeah, those are the questions I have for you guys. This episode probably was a little bit harder for me to talk about because it's something that's personal to me. But I know that it's going to be a breakthrough for everyone, including me. So, yep, that's it for today, guys. Write those questions down, do your homework, get in your quiet time and do that. Let me know what you think. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because we got some giveaways coming later in the next month. But yeah, have a blessed day. And I'll see you guys next week.